Welcome to the Success Partner Podcast. I'm Daya Naef, your host and founder of The Success Partner. On this show, we dive into the stories of attorneys, business professionals, and entrepreneurs who have navigated the ups and downs of building successful careers and businesses. From the strategies they've implemented to the challenges they've overcome, we're here to uncover the insights that can help you on your own journey to success. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Welcome back, everybody, to the Success Partner Podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef, and today we have our guest, Victoria Schall, who's she's an attorney. She has a very interesting background, and I can't wait to hear more about her sharing her story. So I'm just going to, without further ado, turn the mic over to Victoria to tell us more about herself.
Hi, Daya. Thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. The type of work. So I own a law firm. My firm is up in New Jersey, in South Jersey. I practice throughout the state of New Jersey, but I'm licensed in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, and the District of Columbia. Kind of a little bit of a 95 bandit. So I know the whole background of my firm is suing nursing homes, assisted livings, and group homes for abuse and neglect that happens and injuries that people sustain in those facilities. It's a very heavy topic, and I'm always kind of the Debbie Downer of most parties. When people ask, "What do you do?" It's like, oh, okay, all right. So. But then people kind of say, well, wait a minute, you seem younger. How did you get into doing this? What kind of caused you to do that? And what I would say is I started out volunteering in facilities when I was a teenager, and like Girl Scouts and varying events. We would do things in facilities. And then when I went to college, I had a friend of mine that wanted to get into nursing, and she wanted to go volunteer at a facility, and she was like, well, I don't want to go by myself. Will you come with me? Sure. Everybody loves to put me in community relations.
Yeah.
Right. Cute face. Yay, you're happy. That's community. Right. So, except that's kind of a problem because then I also have a little bit of a loud mouth. So, I would see things and would, try to talk to staff and would try to say, hey, look, like, this is what I saw. These are issues. Like, I think this needs to get addressed. And I never forget that first facility. They said, thank you very much. There's the door. And so I was like, well, this is weird. Being 19, like, who did, like, where did, like, what am I going to do? So I then went and volunteered at an assisted living and then a retirement community. And really, I was a business major, and I thought, okay, well, maybe I'll get into managing my own place, because I was seeing the same things happen at each different varying type of facility. At that time, it was in the late 90s, which seems like forever ago. Now, I think that was the kids nowadays would say that's last century. So,
Technically true.
technically true. So it was one of those things that everybody was like, well, assisted livings are the next best thing. And I was like, well, wait a minute, like, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, just, in a different shell. So it brought up a host of different problems, but it was kind of the same things was happening to the residents of the facility and the families. And it was just very difficult to watch. So as a business major, I was like, all right, I don't know what I'm doing here. I just sit down and come up with one sentence that sums up your experience in working at each of these types of places. And that sentence was, there is no positive connection between business and care. And I was like, oh man, where do I go with that? So my business law prof was like, take an extra law class while you're here, see whether you like it. So, I did that, and I was like, all right, well, this is great. Like, I think I could go to law school and potentially do something having to deal with law in this. Worked for a couple of attorneys for a couple of years, and then went to law school. And while I was there, I got a great opportunity to work in an externship for, they're now known as the Consumer Voice for Quality Long-Term Care. They were the National Citizens Coalition for nursing home reform. And they helped to put the federal regulations in place back in the 1980s, and have continued to fight that fight to stand up for residents and the regulations and ensuring that residents receive the right care in facilities. I got the opportunity to work for them, worked on some amazing projects, and met attorneys that did nursing home abuse and neglect work across the country, and working on a project called Faces of Neglect. And so I was like, well, this is really what I want to do. So I graduated from law school and I was an elder law staff attorney at Legal Services in Northern Virginia. So I did a little bit of everything: housing, family, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, nursing home discharge cases, invalid discharge cases. So like I said, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all that stuff too. But that was great experience because it helped me to understand a little bit more about the background. How now having a better understanding of why money was a driving factor as related to care, and how that played a role with corporate structures. It was like, okay, well, now I understand how it actually affects individual people. Um, and I just kept working and to come up to start handling these cases. I had graduated in 2007. The market had collapsed. I was trying to get into doing this type of work. And nobody was really hiring at the time. But I knew people up in Pennsylvania and Jersey. And they said, take a couple more bar exams. We'd love to have. I know, right?
Sure, why not?
So 5 bar exams, 2.5 years, and I know, bonkers. And so I moved up to New Jersey in 2010 and have been practicing here since then, and doing all nursing home abuse, nursing home assisted living, group home abuse and neglect. And when I went to work at the first place that I went to work, they had said, look, we're tired of insurance companies telling us how much these are worth and nobody's trying them. We just want to start trying these cases. So when most people are like, oh, most of them settle, yes, but we wanted to test the waters out to find out, what is a jury going to place on the valuation of these, and they should be held accountable in the public, if they're not going to compensate for what really happened, and to the extent that we know that a jury may find them to do that. So we went on a spree of trying cases across the state of New Jersey, for about another 5 years. So that was pretty crazy too. And in 2023, I decided I wanted to start my own firm. And so I've been doing my own firm about a year and a half, and it's phenomenal. I absolutely love it, and I'm so grateful for all the opportunities that I get to have in representing the people that I care about the most.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, first of all. So,
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
that's a big step. And I hear that you're able to serve the community that you want. Sometimes when we're in a firm, they have their own sort of metrics about who you can take and what the party line has to be as far as
Sure.
settle and litigate and all that. And you're
Sure.
free to do your own thing now.
Yeah, yeah. And and then in addition, it was standing up for my rights as an employee as well. I think, particularly for young women, in as I can't speak on other types of areas of practice, but I can speak on, as a plaintiff trial lawyer, it's very, very difficult. And understanding, everybody loves to use the phrase, know your worth, right? Know your worth. And that phrase drives me bonkers because it's like, okay, well, how do I quantify that? Yes, I'm awesome. But like, how do you quantify that? And then translating it into a discussion with your employer, as to your compensation, as to your position, as to what you deserve in the working environment. And we're not trained on that. Nobody really knows how to do that going through any schooling. So really what it came down to was I sat down and learned my financial worth. And then started putting boundaries around my financial worth. And at that point in time, it was, well, seeing what I was financially doing, it became a question of, well, if I'm doing that for somebody else, why can't I be doing that for myself? And do I want all the other things that come along, like you said, that come along with working for someone else, along with the situations that I'm in, or can I make that and shift that in a way that I want it for myself? So that's kind of how the whole law firm thing started, and that's what I'm most grateful of is being able to do that and do it on my terms.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What's next? What's coming down the pike in the future?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So, I mean, it's great. It's one of these things of like, okay, you make it your first year and you're like, yay, I made it the first year, right? And then now where are you going? Right. So it's you've done a lot of consideration as to what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and growth and how big or how not big I want to grow. And what does that really look like? And I think it's looking at space, looking at extension of practice. One of the interesting things that I never thought that I never just, it never dawned on me that I could do was, there's other attorneys in other states that have reached out to me to try to help and consult with them on some of their cases. That maybe they have a medical malpractice background or a personal injury background, but this area of practice is really something that's pretty niche. And if you don't really understand the extent of it, you're gonna miss it. So other people have brought me in to do those types of things. Not that I want to make that a big portion, but it's great to be able to help out my colleagues across the country, and help them to understand a little bit more about what these cases mean too. Added some staff, just growing, but growing I'm very much the tortoise in there. I'm going to get there.
Slow and steady.
But I'm very much a slow and steady, evaluate, reevaluate, and then implement, and give yourself the grace period enough to implement in a way where you can not be worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But implement in a way where you can keep growing or keep doing what you're doing and then shift in other directions.
Yeah, steady, sustainable growth.
Right.
Yeah.
The tortoise.
The tortoise. Yeah.
Right.
So how else are you getting out there? I know you're a podcast star. How else do you get your name out there?
Well, I learned a long time ago, particularly as a plaintiff attorney and working at firms, the real way to make yourself known, is either to have the verdicts and the settlements, and or to also be bringing in work. And so to me, a long time ago, it became a priority for me to, before husband, kids, house, right? So before all of all of those other responsibilities came knocking at my door, was to really get myself out there. And so I had already built a pretty strong network of people and had gotten myself out there. Did a ton of networking with other attorneys across the state. One of the things that I recently did was in reassessing and figuring out what I'm doing and where I'm going is in New Jersey, in order to, you can hand out referral fees to other attorneys if you are a certified civil trial attorney. So if somebody refers me a case that's another attorney, I can give them a portion of the fee that's approved by the state of New Jersey, as long as they're an attorney. However, if they're not an attorney, I don't do that. You can't do that in New Jersey. Otherwise, there's a whole host of ethical issues that come about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a certified civil trial attorney in the state of New Jersey, so I'm capable of doing that. And in the last year, I had a great first year. All those cases came from other attorneys, which was great. And I'm extremely thankful for that. But just kind of shifting that up, saying I need to get myself out there in the community more. I need to get myself out there with people that are not attorneys and see how we can mutually help each other, right? How can I help their businesses, and how can, they maybe help me as well too. And that's why I joined, a number of organizations, and one of them is a group called Provisors. And in joining them, it's been a really healthy mix of all types of people across the board. And so it's getting myself out there in the community. I mean, I didn't grow up in New Jersey. I'm not from here. I have family that's relatively close, but not directly close in where I live. A lot of people live either down the shore, which is, it's a whole thing, the shore, right?
Jersey Shore.
The Jersey Shore, right? So they're either down the shore or they're in like the Philadelphia area, suburbs of Philadelphia, right? So nobody's right here. So it was rebuilding myself in the public community. And so that's really a lot of my efforts now is trying to reach out to people and get my name known to not only attorneys but also to people in the public.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's a very public centered practice. We have people that are adult children of people in facilities and other facility advocates. It's an interesting dynamic that you have this trust in these people to take care of your loved ones, and then they're not. And then, we had to put in all these regulations. It's like, well, there shouldn't really actually have to have been all those regulations.
Right.
Now that there are, we have some teeth to work with.
And I think, I've been there personally as well as professionally, not only just through my volunteering experience, but personally, I've been there and I've been through my own journey through the long-term care system. So it's daunting, it's stressful, it's scary, it's filled with landmines. So I love being able to educate people, if nothing else, help them on the front end so that I don't have to help them on the tail end. For a bit, I also had a TV show called Advocating for the Aging on RVN TV, where I would bring in, as the host, I would bring in people that I knew across the board that handled all sorts of issues for the aging population. Everything from financial abuse people to the New Jersey long-term care ombudsman for nursing homes, to people in regulations, people that were dealing with elder financial abuse. You name it. I was trying to get as many people across the board to try to get the word out there. Again, I would love to help people on the front end and educate them and armor them so that when they are in these situations, that they at least have the information to be able to advocate for themselves as they're going through it, and then to be there on the end if they do need that assistance.
Yeah, it's often just knowing the right questions to ask and how important it is that you actually ask them.
It's a language, right? Like, I think any industry has its own language. I was meeting with some friends the other day and we were talking about what they do. And one of the gentlemen, he's in a completely different industry and he just started using all these acronyms. And the other attorney and I just sat there and were like, I'm sorry, what? I don't understand. I don't know what those acronyms, and it's like, oh, okay, let me go through it. Right. This is what it is. And it's like, okay. So for the long-term care industry, it has a complete language to it. And, knowing how to speak that speak. And, from a personal standpoint, like I said, I've been in situations where, it's been helpful to me to be able to communicate on behalf of my family, and be able to say, not say what I do necessarily, but to be able to communicate and say, look, I understand this, 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 and this is how this goes, and this is how this goes, but that's not happening here. Right? No. Right?
Yeah, the buck stops here.
Here are the alternatives that are available to you. As to how we're going to manage this situation, right? So it's yeah. I mean, if you don't know how to speak it, it becomes even worse. And not to say that I haven't struggled. I've struggled myself too. Even having all that knowledge, and it's difficult. So I love being able to try to help people through probably one of the toughest times in their lives, because most people don't understand what's going on, and then to understand why it's going on, to then be able to say, what do I do about it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, makes sense. So how do people find you?
So I have a website. My website is shallatlaw.com. And you can just Google my name, and there's a host of things that'll pop up. You can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook. You can find my firm there. You can find me there. There's a host of different ways to try to reach out. My email address is vschall@shallatlaw.com. And I look forward to trying to help anybody with any questions they may have. And hopefully I don't have to help you on the tail end. But if I do, I'm more than happy to do that.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. This has been another episode of the Success Partner podcast. I am your host, Daya Naef, and we had Victoria Schall today as our guest. So stay tuned.
Thanks, Daya.
Thank you for joining us on the Success Partner Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's conversation and found some valuable takeaways to apply to your own business journey. Remember, this show is brought to you by The Success Partner, where we help small law firms and business owners achieve unparalleled success through strategic guidance, operational excellence, and effective marketing. If you're ready to take your business to the next level, visit thesuccesspartner.net to learn more. Until next time, keep striving for success, and I will see you in the next episode.